psychotherapists and psychologists and therapists of all sorts. There is a great responsibility here to the creation of the future image of the human mind, because what we are moving toward is a technological singularity. In other words, the process of technology has been dominating our evolution since at least 25,000 years ago. For far longer than that, as a physiological type, we have been steady. There's been very little variance. But the proliferation of cultural artifacts has been ever increasing, asymptotically increasing now, toward the point that one can see that what is actually being proposed by whatever this force is that is driving the human unconscious and releasing ideas into the stream of historical time, what is actually being proposed is a full self-imaging of the soul. I've thought of this in terms of turning the human body inside out so that the soul is visible and the body becomes an object freely commanded in a realm which we call the imagination. These things are possible. This stuff is being labored toward in these tall glassy buildings all around us, even as we speak. A technology, information, transformation of coding, it has a life of its own. If you were an extraterrestrial staring down at this planet, you wouldn't see a human civilization. What you would see is a swarm of codes, some of them genetic, some of them electronic, some of them pheromonal, acoustic codes. Information is what's loose on the surface of this planet. Why? Why not? We have nothing else to compare it to. Perhaps this is what biology always ushers into, is this ever more intense, ever more accelerated self-reflection, self-expression. What is to be done with it? Well, I think that in a way it is doing what is to be done with it, and that a great deal of political education consists in standing back. What we are moving toward has a sense of itself. What we must provide is a channel of communication for a guiding image for the lives of each one of us, a guiding image for society. And what I think it is this, the felt presence of immediate experience. That's what sex is about. That's what psychedelics are about. It's what good philosophy, good food, decency, it's what all these things are about. The valuing people, valuing the moment in which you are in as a cog in a wheel. Not, it was a great poet who said, it is not he or she or them or it that you belong to. There's something to that, I think. But in combination with this technological thing, it isn't simply a call to dignity and presence in the moment. It is a call to dream, because we are going to become whatever it is we wish to be. We stand on the brink of entering into a kind of hyperspatial dimension. The entire culture is poised on the brink of an ocean of imagination. The mind, which began, 50, 100,000 years ago, a tiny spark pulled forth out of the darkness in the dim recesses of these pack hunting primates on the plains of Africa, and then slowly, all that looking into the campfire, all those eons of boredom. Somebody had to invent canasta. No, the game which was invented, the game which invented itself was symbiosis. Symbiosis with plants. Out of this primate stock, there came one species that had the habit, the weird predilection for addicting to almost anything. To its mate, to its territory, to its place in a hierarchy, and to plants. And this symbiosis between people and plants is what gives us the legacy of our great religions. Soma, this mysterious vegetable concoction which drove the imagination of Vedic thinkers as they moved out of Caucasian Asia and into India over a 3,000-year period. The whole of the Rig Veda is a hymn to Soma. What are these things that drove these civilizations, the Osirian civilization of Egypt? Did it depend on tryptamines native in the local acacias? What is the relationship of ergotized beer or mushrooms to the Eleusinian mysteries, which put their stamp on the thinking of Plato, Aristotle, Aeschylus, Aristophanes, the whole pantheon of Greek thinkers? And then you see in cold Europe a cultural aberration arose, and with a religion with a peculiar suspicion of nature, a suspicion of nature so complete that when it resolved itself into a dualism and defined its Satan, the power of Satan had to rest entirely within himself. And thus plants, as a tool of feminism, which was associated with Satanism and demonic magic, you bet your booties, knowledge of plants completely disappeared on the European continent on any serious level. I'm talking now about ecstatic, visionary things. There were also botanical problems. The cold nature of Europe seems to give it a predisposition toward the tropanes, belladonna, the solanaceous plants that are not true psychedelics but really deliriants and frenzy-inducing kinds of nearly toxic, super intoxicants. And with European civilization comes the fullest expression of male-dominated paternalism, which of course had been brought through from Judaism into earlier Christianity, but it reached its fullest expression in the feudal ideal and chivalry, which was the final degradation of women. Essentially, it carried out a process that had been going on since the fall of Mycenaean Greece. And with this comes an enormous legacy of neurosis and an enormous reluctance to be involved in the real, but rather to stratify and to remove, to dominate, and to abstract, leading to modern science, leading to the ability to answer all questions which are irrelevant. The further the question is from relevancy, the more likely you are to get an absolutely down to a gnat's eyebrow answer. Again, this tension between the need to center the human being in our models and the willingness to leave human beings completely out of the picture in order to answer a whole different set of questions. So I think it's a challenge to all of us, to each of us, to make this kind of an agenda count, to look into the future, to see that the image of what we are going to become is so important that we need to realize we are creating it by our acts, by our acquiescence in the acts of others as well. I mean, we are sitting through a particular period of idiocy, and there will be other periods of idiocy. But we can each move into the future, I think, at our own speed, at our own rate of understanding. The best ideas will win. It isn't a matter of great power. It's a matter of having the clearest image of the human soul, the clearest image of a historical goal that would be worthy enough to rescue meaning from the pyre of ruin